Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye, and we got some more Uminkeo for you today. Before we get into it, just some trigger warnings for this game. This game deals with some pretty mature themes, including but not limited to death, murder, dismemberment, torture, child abuse, any of the above against a minor. Why am I a ghost? Let me fix that. Alright, so before we don't come into this Halloween party, I thought it would be a fun idea to take a look at one thing in particular, which is, I know that these cases are different. People here have been murdered in the chapel, whereas last time it was the Rose Garden, so it's different. But if we are under the assumption that there's two possibilities here. One, Beatrice is the murderer, in which case, whatever, witchy magic can do whatever she wants. Or two, it is a person, whether they are on this chart or not, that is always committing this. So let's take a look, or persons, if say the murder for the first time is not the same as the murder for the second time, and so on. So looking at the overlap of who died in the first versus who died in the second arc for this initial 6 might give us some insight there. Kraus dies in both. Eva and Hideyoshi and Natsuhi did not die in the first, but die in the second. So if it's the same person, that implies that none of those three is the murderer for the first case. Rudolph and Kyrie die in both. And then not pictured here who die in the first one is Rosa, Shannon, and Goda. So if we take the Venn diagram of those two, have Arc 1, Arc 2, there's some overlap. If we take that peanut and take a look at who's remaining, that might tell us who the killer is, or help us weed that down. Grandpa is quite suspicious in the first scenario where we don't know where he was. In this one, we've seen him from his point of view, and I guess a couple things here first. One, we're assuming that everything we see here is factual, that they're not trying to trick us with an unreliable narrator. I'm going to make that assumption. So if we have an unreliable narrator, then everything falls out the window. I think we have to assume that. Beatrice is, if we think it's her, then we just think it's a witch and not a person. Unless you think Beatrice in this costume is different from Beatrice in her other costume. If you think there are two Beatri, or Beavi, I guess, because it's 2 and not 3, then that could also be something. If we're going with the assumption that we are a reliable narrator, then it cannot be us, because we would know that we're the murderer. So we can rule out Battler if we're going with a reliable narrator who's not, like sleepwalking, hypnotized, on drugs, something like that. So we can rule out Battler, assuming those things, which leaves Jessica, George, Maria, the Doctor, Genji, Kanon, and Kumasawa. Other things to consider is, in the first case, they were killed in the dining room, and then 6 adults were dragged from the dining room out to the Rose Garden. There was not any notice of blood, or drag marks, until you get to, the crest on the outside of the door. Which implies either one really strong person or multiple people. So, if it's one strong person, Genji perhaps, Kanon perhaps, I think we could rule out Nanjo, Kumasawa, and Maria by themselves. Potentially they could be doing it together with someone else or with each other. And George possibly, and Jessica also. Probably would be pretty hard for Jessica to effectively move one of her uncles or her father. And we're also assuming that they would have the emotional capabilities to murder 6 people. So so far from what I've seen, I mean, there's a lot of pieces of garbage here, looking at you, Rosa. But Rosa died the first time, so... yeah. So that's the information we have there. And if we look back at the ending, well, it was, what, Jessica, George, Battler, Maria, and Natsuhi were the final 5, right? Yeah. So if we're looking at those final 5, then the 3 are Maria, George, and Jessica. And George and Jessica would basically have had to have faked an emotional sight of seeing their parents die, or be killed by them, or in George's case, his fiancée. So yeah, that is information. Again, this is under a lot of assumptions that the cases are supposed to be committed by the same person each time. If it's a different killer each arc, all of this goes out the window. If it's Beatrice, it goes out the window. If they have lied to us in any of the cutaways, so in arc 2, when we see Kinzo saying like, "Hey, I made it through the morning," if that was falsified, all that goes out the window. And same if our narrator is an unreliable narrator. All right, there was a lot of chat there. I'm going to go back. Your sanity has been steadily draining trying to deal with getting it up and running, but you're close. Oh, with the Hell Legacy? It's Hell Legacy if it's being a problem. And I wasn't really there a whole lot, so I'm not actually sure what you were trying to do with that, or what Hell Legacy actually is. Beardy said Beatrice asked Shannon to break the thing. Oh, Beatrice, at least in this arc, we didn't see this in the previous one. It may have happened, we just didn't see it. Asked her to break off her engagement with George. That when George gave her the ring, if she declined or broke off the engagement so that they were no longer a couple, then they would not be the target of the second day of the epitaph, which basically says a couple. Those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. The 2 who are close could refer to Shannon and George. So in arc 1, that referred to Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi. And Beatrice has essentially come out saying it is any pair-bonded couple, of which we have 3 sets of adults, George and Shannon. And considering Beatrice has killed the 3 sets of adults, and I guess in some arcs it could potentially be Kanon and Jessica, just not in this one because they are not a couple, and unless there's some other romantic relationships happening that we're not aware of, there's literally only one option remaining for a pair to be killed in the next one. So yeah, so that's basically foreshadowing my prediction that George and Jessica are the next 2 found dead, guaranteed. I don't think there's any other option if we're following the epitaph and we believe what Beatrice has already said. Beardy says they think we are a reliable narrator and are innocent, but thinks any events that we don't physically see could be twisted by whoever tells us. And this, I guess this brings up a question of, it's like Kinzo's thing at the start. From my point of view, that's something that Kinzo has not come out and said like, "Hey, I'm glad I survived this morning." I don't think anyone in the family has heard that from him. At best, the servants tried to rouse him when 6 people were dead this morning, and he's like, "Go away! It's part of my plan, my gamble. I don't care." At best, they know he's alive because of his voice, or because they let themselves in to ask him if it was Goda who has the key. At worst, because it's currently, I believe, 6 a.m., that they respectfully knocked, and when he didn't answer, they just let him be. So, does Battler in this scenario know that? I would say no. But potentially the Battler who is above all of this, playing this chess match, can see those events. And that's where I'm leaning towards, is I think it would be unfair to him if Beatrice can make chess moves that he can't see because of Fog of War. Because if she is able to do witchy stuff and be in 10 places at once, and Battler can only be in 1, that's pretty unfair to him. There is a type of chess, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially Fog of War chess, where you can only see squares where your pieces can move. So in this case, if Battler is his only piece, or if it's like him and his cousins, then he could see that information, but maybe not see Grandpa. And then we don't know what pieces Beatrice has, because she's alluded to in the tea ceremony at the end of the first one that she has demons who can do her bidding. So how those demons work, we don't know. You're not ruling out Battler, it's in his name. Yeah, fair. So Beatrice says, as an example, in those interactions being blocked, they're assumed nobody in the room is with them. Yeah, exactly. Oh, the mirror of the amulet. Yes, it's a mirror at the shrine on the rock pinnacle out off the island. Yeah. It's an old web-based MMO hacking simulator. I see. Okay. Oh, so all of that was just to get it actually working, and wasn't the actual game of trying to hack it. It's only physically interacted with Shannon and Kanon. In terms of touching, like physically touching someone else, yes. We have, I guess, indirect pieces where Goda has seen her put her hand on the doorknob to Kinzo's office, which has the scorpion, and burn through her hand. So we've seen the doorknob interact with her. I can't remember if anyone... Oh, and when Shannon serves her tea, she consumes tea, so she can interact with food and beverages, so that's also something. So Beatrice only interacted with furniture. And Beatrice has physically handed Maria an envelope and an umbrella, as well as handing a letter to Rosa, which had a key inside of it. I believe that's all the stuff we've physically seen Beatrice interact with. So in theory, if the servants were the culprit, they could have killed Kinzo and said he responded. Yes. Yes, they could. And considering Goda has the only key outside of Kinzo, although at some points he does lend it to Natsuhi, although obviously not in this case because Natsuhi is dead. So I think we can safely presume in this case that Goda has the key. But at least in the last time, he lent it to Natsuhi, and Natsuhi went in and he was gone. And no one sees him after that until he is found dead in the furnace. Demons are are knights, they move in an L shape. Beardy genuinely can't believe that something we've seen doesn't... genuinely believes that something we've seen doesn't add up. Okay. So with that, let's get into it. So this is just to remind everyone kind of what happened. We went to bed. The adults, all 7 adults, and Rosa included, met with Beatrice in the chapel, where they all conceded that she is a witch. All 7 of them concede this fact, at least in that cutaway. I mean, Rose is still alive, perhaps she will confirm this later. And after that, we don't see anyone else or what happens until the next morning when the servants, I believe it's, Shannon finds a letter in the dining room table next to the tea set, which simply says chapel. And chapel is a place that we didn't see in the first one. It's a sacred place to our grandfather that no one is really allowed to go in. So Shannon, thinking that maybe they've migrated there for their discussion or something, goes to check it out to find a few things. 1, the door is locked. 2, there's a giant bloody seal, the exact same one as the first ark that was on the Rose Garden shed. 3, they don't find this out until later, so I'll hold off on that. So she goes to alert the other servants, who then try to look for everyone, and obviously the only adult left is Rosa, besides our grandfather and the doctor and the other servants. So they get Rosa to come and get her permission to open the chapel. However, the key is missing. And Rosa comes to the conclusion the key must be in that letter that Maria has that Beatrice gave her, that Beatrice said there'll be a time to open this, you'll know. So she goes and steals the letter, opens it, the key is in fact inside, and they open it up. However, when she comes back, and she gets close, she realized that there's something else on the door written in blood that they missed, which essentially says, Happy Halloween, Maria. They're not sure what this is, but they open it up and go inside, where they see 6 people, the 6 other adults, the kids and their spouses, dead at a table on top of the altar at the far end of the chapel. And the table has a bunch of Halloween candy and decorations, and we see that all 6 of them have had their guts cut open. Their intestines and stomachs are spilling out, filled with candy. Once they realize what happened, Rosa sends some of the servants back to, 1, try to call police, but I think we all know that the telephone lines are going to be down and the radio's not going to work, so this is a fruitful effort, but try it they must, as it is a logical course of action. 2, to get the doctor to come and see what, if anything, can be done. So I believe it's Goda goes to try to call the police on the phone, which doesn't work, and Kanon grabs the doctor. At this point, the kids are awake because Maria is loudly complaining that her mom has stolen her key by opening her letter. So she's trying to find her mom and what was inside the letter because it is given to her by Beatrice, so it should be hers. And where we're at right now is all of them, the doctor, the kids, have gone back with Kanon to the chapel, and Rosa is telling the kids don't come in and see what has happened.
さん、父さん、何があったの？なんだよこりゃ。趣味が悪いにも程があるじゃねえかよ。
I'm pretty sure Maria already does that for us.
命を奪うならそれで十分事足りただろうがよ。なんだよこりゃ。
They couldn't stomach it either, Sam says. That's why their guts are spilling out.
殺した後に椅子に座らせて腹裂いて。
Oh, and I'd posted this in the Discord. I've been reading the manga for each of these arcs as we've been completing it. So obviously this is arc 2. So I'm currently reading the manga for arc 1. If anyone here is going to go down that route, so you can see here they're trying to show things that infer what happened. You know, they're showing blood on the carpet. They're showing people slumped over. The manga does not hold back. In that first arc, when they're in the rose shed and like their faces are missing, you see that. So just warning you, if this is already something that you're struggling to stomach, please don't read the manga. Also, probably don't watch the anime. The anime, I think, is also more graphic than this as well. Yeah, in the manga, I'm literally just at the point where they got back from the first 6 murders, and Battler and Aunt Eva are kind of debating who they think the culprit is. That's where I'm at. So I would say I'm halfway through the manga for that first arc.
やってくれやがるぜ。最高だよ、最高だよ。皆さんは外へ出られた方がいい。こんな姿を皆さんに見せたいなどと彼らが思うわけがありません。
I think it's a bit late, Nanjo. Nanjo told the kids to go wait outside, but no one lent him an ear.
ローザさん、皆さんに言ってください。こんなもの見続けてはどこになる。
Rosa regretted her own carelessness. She should have been able to anticipate that the children would eventually come here. She should have quickly locked it instead of standing around. So now the children had come, and they had seen it. Surely in this very moment they were having a sight burned into their eyes, which is far more grotesque than the gross-out food Rosa had seen in her youth. While she hugged Maria, who seemed to have forgotten her emotions as she stared dumbfounded at the horrible scene, Rosa shed copious tears for them and their parents. Before groaning and crying voices, their sadness continued to echo in a place which should have known God's love. Oh, okay. I think this is being taken out of this. I think this is going to be Battler talking directly to Beatrice. So we might get some context on what this looks like. And I'll be back in literally 1 second. Okay. I turned the light on, that might help. There, you counted to 1. I was back in 1, so... Okay, yeah, it's like I thought. So this is literally Battler in the middle of their chess game being like, time out. What's this garbage? So for reference, what I did is there's a light the other room over. So there's a set of like doors on this side. And I turned that on because it was starting to get a little bit dark. Hello, Aoden. Yeah, we're in the middle of just looking at the murders of 6 people at a Halloween party, essentially.
わらわはそんな嘆きより感謝の言葉が聞きたかったぞ。
感謝？感謝と言ったがこのクソババア！てめえ、耳がいかれてやがるってんなら、俺が両の耳を引き裂いてよく聞こえるようにしてやるぜ。なんで俺がこの最高にいかれた殺し方にありがとうございますベアトリーチェ様なんて言わなければならねえんだ。
前回のゲームでお前は自分の親の死に顔が見られないと嘆いたな。
This is evil. This is absolutely evil. Last time you were grieving that you couldn't see your parents' faces when they died. I granted your wish because I'm such an amazing person. You can see their faces now when they're dead.
だから残したぞ。しっかり残した。よく拝んでおけ。間違いなく父親たちが殺されたことを。
Okay, so I think this has two effects right here. One, it just pisses off Battler, which is probably just a plus for Beatrice and her enjoyment. Two, by not mutilating their faces, anyone who wanted to say like, oh, this could be, you know, someone dressed up to look as Shannon or your father, it removes that doubt. I mean, that doubt would they've had like DNA and fingerprinting and stuff like that in 1980s Japan? I don't know. Maybe. But at least them right there wouldn't have had that information like ready. But this time there's no room for error on that front. So she's quickly dispelling that argument.
そうかよ。そいつはサービス満点だぜ。気に入った。俺はてめえの息の根を止めたら顔面耕してやろうと誓ってたが、そいつは取り消してやるぜ。てめえの腹渡を引きずり出してやる。
Hello, how's it going?
感情に任せて思考を止めるな。
You two made it so hard?
すでにわらわのゲームは始まっておるのだぞ。
Well, glad you made it back. And what do you mean, Samus, is you don't like this Beatrice sprite? It's great. Better than all the adults here, apparently.
わらわは今回は綺麗に死体を残すことに決めた。
Her eyebrows are indeed over her hair, yes.
なぜだかわかるか。前回のゲームでそなたがわらわの存在を否定するとき、こう考えて否定したであろう。それは顔面が潰され遺体の身元が
Okay,
確
this is what I
認
was
で
saying,
きる。
is this dispels this argument. You cannot identify them because their faces have been smashed in. There's no room for this argument now. So as flimsy as an argument that was from Battler last time, she has taken the steps this time to make it so he cannot make the same argument this time. He has to formulate new arguments.
だから身代わりの死体を用意してアリバイを作った可能性が否定できない。その可能性が排除できない限り、人間犯人説は維持できる。
なんだと？
That's an anime thing, Samus is. There's also like common anime ones where if there's characters like on the roof and they've got like a chain link fence, that you can see like their face as if the chain link fence wasn't there, with like glasses and like the little like anime blush lines and that kind of stuff. The original sprites are superior. I played Higurashi with some of those OG sprites. Can't remember if this mod lets me switch there. No, this one doesn't let me change the sprites. I'm gonna quickly Google what, I don't know what to call that, evil looking Beatrice sprite. Original. So if anyone remembers playing the OG Higurashi sprites, if you can imagine what Beatrice looks like, with like the fat fingers Honestly, it looks better than the Higurashi sprites, but not by much. Yeah, they got the fat sausage fingers. Alright, let's go back in. See, I made the mistake that time of letting chat vote for which sprite they wanted. In fairness, that one you could just swap between the three. And we often did. The first time we got to a sprite, we'd compare all three of them. And then go with the anime version of the sprites. But this mod doesn't let you change those. Yeah, that's it. Those are the sausage fingers. Okay, and she's already casting doubts of medical people in these kinds of horror, drama, detective stuff are often in on it and mislead the rest of the people with their examinations. So when I was doing Arc 1, I did have a different mod that I did on the Steam version. And the issue I had with that one was there was a lot of voice acting that was missing. So I ended up on this one, which is the Alchemist one, I believe. 07, the Alchemist mod. Which has the voice acting, which saves my throw, which I am happy with. But yes, I encourage everyone. There's different versions for the sprites. I think there's the original console, and then this one, which is the more modern one. Yes, I totally agree with you there, Beardy, that if you look at a character that you are supposed to hate or be disgusted in or just be like put off by, and that's how you feel, then they've done a good job. The same way that if you're playing like a game or something and there's a villain and you really hate them, to me that's a well done villain. And I'd love to hear what everyone's like favorite villain, I mean, unless it's spoilers for the game that they become villain, that, you know, they weren't a villain but become a villain. I'd love to hear what those are. Probably my go-to, and I won't say who they are because it is a bit of a spoiler, is the last story on the Wii. There is just someone there. They're not like the final antagonist, but they're like, you know, one of those people that antagonizes you like partway through and you have a showdown with them. I hated that person. It was so satisfying to finally get past them. Yeah. Yeah.
間違いなく6人の死体が当人で死んだふりなどでなく本当の本当に死んでいることを十分に確認するがいい。
The C stands for capitalism. He's Kent Capitalism Koopa. I am very much a fan of the fact that the randomizer for that, you can set how much money you have at the start. So you can make sure that you have enough money to get past. I think you can even potentially set how much it costs to get past. I think by default they cut it down to 50, the Paper Mario 64 randomizer. So in the Paper Mario 64, there's a guy called Kent C. Koopa, and as we know, the C stands for capitalism. To get past him, you have to pay a one-time fee. I believe in the original it was 100 coins, and he doesn't appear until Chapter 5, I want to say. And it's for a path down to Chapter 1, which, I mean, really at that point you should be able to teleport down that way. But in a randomizer, you might not have that capability because of how the randomizer works. He's just there from the start. So So if you want to make things hard on yourself, you can start with no money and no items and have to grind money to get past him, but yeah. Gosh dang it, yeah. Yeah, don't be gifting subs to Kent Capitalism Koopa.
腹に手を入れてその手触りで確認するがいい
I'm not sure if anyone else heard that like weird creepy laugh under her laugh. Your sprite says otherwise. Just saying. Oh, and in case I pressed a button. In case people haven't heard, there's a new version of the Paper Mario 64 randomizer. It's not like something built into it, it's just an honor system one. But essentially what you do is you play it with traps on, however many traps you want, and if you encounter a trap and touch it, if it's a trap you'll take damage by touching it. You have to warp back to start. So it's an honor system of, if you think that item is fake, you might want to avoid it, but if it ended up being real and a key item that you really needed, then you've wasted time by skipping out on it. Or just sometimes you have bad luck. I've seen ones where you like hit a box, an item pops out, and you try to avoid it, but it follows you and hits you anyways. I saw this, oh crap, what's his username? Or sorry, sorry, I misgendered them because they are they, them. I don't remember their name, but they were the top Paper Mario randomizer. They won the tournament, I think 2 tournaments ago, and they're often streaming Paper Mario or other speedrunning ones. They do Twilight Princess. I think I saw them doing Mega Man the other day. Dang. Let me see if I can find them in the Discord. It's gonna annoy me that I can't think of their name. But I saw them doing a randomizer the other day that was 10 seeds played concurrently. Yes, I did message you about it, Beardy. That is a good idea. Maybe it's in our chat. If only you don't talk so much. Oh, found it. Phantom 5800 is their Twitch. So they were at one point the top Paper Mario 64 speedrunner. They took a break just because it was not so great for their mental health, but they're still playing it, just not as part of like the official tournaments, at least the last I checked, and I'm not up to date on the latest tournaments. But they were playing 10 consecutive ones, and people could give bits or subs to make them switch the one that they were playing. So when I was watching, they completed 5 out of 10 seeds. Of the remaining 5 seeds, 3 were literally in the middle of the final battle. And people were trying to make to give subs or whatever. Yeah, sure, shout them out. That'd be great. They do a lot of different randomizer speedrun stuff. Like I said, the ones I know, they do Paper Mario 64. They do that. Mega Man was the one I saw them doing before, and Twilight Princess are the 3 I know that they do. And thank you for that. But yeah, so if you're interested in a top speedrunner, Phantom is great. They also represented Paper Mario 64 at Games Done Quick. I think that was last year. So if you're a fan of Games Done Quick and watched the Paper Mario 64 speedrun at Games Done Quick, you might have actually watched their stream. Alright, back to Battler and his suffering. That was a lovely aside, but let's get back to Battler's suffering. Battler suddenly yelled. His tears were still dripping down. But as though scolding himself for being early, he slapped himself hard in the face several times with both hands. Even so, the tears still wouldn't stop. Yeah. However, he felt a hot blaze ignite in both his eyes. Self-abuse and a little bit of misogyny was in there as well.
なら、泣く時じゃねえ。自分のすべきことを考えろ。ああ、ダメだぜ、全然ダメだ。涙を流す暇があったら考えろ。涙腺なんかひるませる時じゃんね。
Rather than pure hatred, maybe it was more of an evasive hatred to blot out his sadness. However, he gave a little courage to George and Jessica, who were being crushed by sadness.
そうだね。僕たちが泣いても起こってしまった現実は変わらない。
じゃあどうすりゃいいんだ。私は父さんと母さんのために何をすればいいんだよ。
That it is, Samus.
ローザ様、戻りました。
郷田さん、警察はどうでしたか。
I imagine we won't be able to contact them.
いつ頃来られそうだと言っていましたか。
それが電話が故障のようでして、非常用の無線機も試してはみたのですが、その天候のせいでしょうか、こちらも通じず。
Yeah, and as I said before, I imagine George and Jessica are guaranteed to be the next pair, as they're the only couple that we have seen. And Beatrice basically said, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill you.
なんですって。じゃあ警察に連絡がつかないということなの。あいつだ。あいつが電話線とかに採掘して警察に電話ができないようにしたんだ。
When she heard that the phones were out of order, Jessica immediately decided that was the work of that mysterious guest. Her eyes were bright red after so much crying, and they began to grow even more red with rage. I prefer that they're glowing like she's some kind of like Terminator.
もう議論の余地なんかねえぜ。
Yeah, George and Shannon are an item. Jessica and Kanon were also featured as relationship. However, Kanon turned her down. Although he later lamented that he wished he hadn't.
全てが分かってる。そうだと分かる。父さんと母さんを殺したのは誰だ。決まってるぜ。あいつだ。昨日来たとかいう魔女様に決まってる。襟首ひねり上げてやるぜ。チクショーチクショーチクショー。ジェシカちゃん、お待ちなさい。郷田さん、カノ君、行って。
はい。お嬢様、お待ちを。
Okay, this brings up a question that I want to see how Goda and Kanon answer it. So as furniture, you were supposed to be, you know, subservient to your master, and in this case, Rosa is now the acting master, just because grandfather doesn't come out. If grandfather came out, his word would be in charge. This other person is still a guest of grandfather, which they've already said is at a higher level than Rosa and the other people. So if Rosa tells them like, hey, you gotta go tie her up or lock her in a room, are they going to do it? Let's see what happens. Covering her unfocused sadness with anger, Jessica ran outside, torn apart by emotion. Thinking about it hastily, maybe the mystery guest, Beatrice, who had arrived yesterday, was suspicious. However, at the current time, there's absolutely no proof that she was the culprit. Let's see, who of the 19 people brought Halloween decorations? That might be a good start. At this moment, she was nothing more than a simple guest, and only one of many. So Rosa had to make an adult decision and stop Jessica in her hasty rampage. Goda and Kanon realized that immediately and chased after her.
誰にも招かれなかった客人、ベアトリーチェが犯人なんだろうか。
ジェシカの気持ちもわかる。そう思い込みたい気持ちは誰でもいいから犯人ってことにして横っ面をぶっ飛ばしてやりたい気持ちがある。 だがその前にはっきりと理解する必要がある。ベアトリーチェってのは何者なんだ。俺は顔すら見てねえぜ。
顔ならお屋敷に大きな肖像画で飾られてたよ。あれだけ見てまだ覚えられないのかな。
なんだよマリア。
And Maria also speaks Hebrew, apparently, because she can read, or at least can read it on the magic circles on top of English.
ベアトリーチェは魔女なんだよ。そして黄金鏡の扉を開くための儀式がいよいよ始まったの。この6人はその生贄なんだよ。
And it was the same seal, and if I remember correctly, she says this seal is to break free of something or to break out of something. So in the previous arc, if you go down the route of the seal has an actual magic power, I saw two potential ways it was used. One, to break into the room where Eva and Hideyoshi died and then leave it as a locked room case. Or two, break into grandfather's room since the scorpion was holding them out. It's kind of like a battle of magics, and get him out of there so that you could murder him. Unless it's powerful enough to do both. Maybe you can just do both.
さあさあ始まるよ、魔女の宴が。今宵はハロウィン。魔女たちが今こそ祝い集う。
Maybe next arc it'll be Christmas.
マリア、その気持ち悪い声で笑うのをやめなさいっていつも言ってるでしょ。
The crisp sound of Rosa slapping Maria's cheek echoed through the high-ceilinged chapel. It kind of feels like ever since the rain started yesterday, no, ever since the island had become wrapped up in the typhoon, something had gone crazy. I had arrived in Rokenjima while it was clear and taken a nap because I had gotten up early. When I woke up, it had already started raining. Yeah, we don't need fire Santa, please. If we have a Christmas thing and Santa kills the 6 people with fire, we know who did it. It was just Santa. After I got up, that's when it all started. Suddenly a mysterious visitor had arrived, calling herself the Golden Witch Beatrice. Feels like the world had started skewing bit by bit into something insane. What happened while I was taking that nap? During that time, had this island been cut off, trapped in a different world where common sense doesn't apply? Who is this person called Beatrice? She's some unknown person trying to involve themselves with the inheritance problem, like our parents were freaking out about at dinner last night? Or is the culprit the witch from the Legend of the Gold, like Maria says? Even if Jessica hadn't let her short temper get the better of her, in this situation the visitor was probably the most suspicious. But we mustn't jump to conclusions just like that. Yeah, that's no good, no goddamn good at all. I smacked my face with both hands again, cooling off my brain before it overheated. Even though it might have been a waste of effort. Okay, we have a third envelope. On a tray piled up with sweets that decorated the table, Georgianki found a Western envelope that had the Ushiromiya family crest done on it in gold leaf. And it was unopened.
ってこと、それは俺たち宛てってことじゃねえのか。親父たちが読んだものだったなら開封されてるはずだぜ。
その推理は正解のようだよ。書いてある。残されし者たちへって書いて。
それは犯人が残した手紙なの。中身。
兄貴、開けようぜ。
After nodding silent, Georgianki opened it. A folded letter came out.
読むよ。六軒島へようこそ。後ろ宮家の皆様方。私は金蔵様にお仕えしております。当家顧問錬金術師のベアトリーチェと申します。
that letter really was a joke. This Beatrice, who calls herself the family alchemist, announced that she was collecting the gold she had lent grandfather along with the interest. That interest was everything that grandfather had created. Since this tragedy was right before our eyes, and this paragraph was read aloud, it clearly wasn't referring just to the wealth that grandfather had built up. It was literal. Everything that grandfather had given birth to. In other words, all of grandfather's descendants were included in the interest. But you also killed the spouses. Unless there's some weird Alabama thing going on here, I don't think grandfather gave birth to them as well.
ふざけやがってなんてめちゃくちゃな契約だ。黄金の利子は命だってのかよ。そんなのまるで悪魔の契約じゃねえかよ。それで魔女気取りってわけか。乗せやがるぜ。
特別条項ただし隠された契約の黄金を暴いた者が現れた時ベアトリーチェはこの権利を全て永遠に放棄しなければならない。
Yeah, and if we look at the epitaph, I think if you count them up, it doesn't have an exact number, because I think the last stanza is like those who remain on the last day. Let's take a look at it. But there's a minimum number. Okay, so we have this letter actually now. So 6 plus 2 is 8. No one dies on the third twilight. Plus 1 is 9. Plus 1 is 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 die, and it just says, at the end, none shall be left alive. So there's at least 13 people, and I guess 14, because there needs to be someone to remain alive, to not remain alive at the end. So at least 14 people. But there's more than 14 people here. And actually, if we look at the family tree, if we take out the people, well, actually, he didn't give birth to the servants either, so this is already not valid, because there's only 8 actual descendants of grandfather. But in theory, not everyone has to be here. There could potentially be an arc where Maria and Rosa don't come, and there's still enough people to cover this. Yeah, exactly. We're just trying to prove that this is possible, that it's something that humans did, and it's not, the motive might be important to figuring that out, but it's not, we don't necessarily need the motive to beat Beatrice at this game. That's right.
黄金の隠し場所についてはすでに金蔵様が私の肖像画の下に碑文にて公示されております。つまりこういうことだね。もしこの殺人が利子の回収行為だというなら。
Because I think it's pretty well established at this point that Beatrice is just doing this because she finds it enjoyable.
それを止める条件としておじい様に与えた隠し黄金を探し出してみろよ。
I mean, unless there's some, you can have multiple motivations, so there could be something else as well.
そしてその秘密は例の肖像画の碑文に隠されているとも言ってる。
つまりこいつは魔女様の挑戦状ってわけか。黄金の隠し場所を記した暗号文を解けるものなら解いてみろと。そしてそれができなきゃ利子の回収をこの後も着々と進めていきますと。
I hadn't mentioned this at the start of stream, and I meant to. And what Samus has just said, what she just said, has reminded me of this. So if you hadn't heard last stream, I will be on hiatus for the next 3 Fridays. I'll be away on vacation. And 4 Fridays from now, I have an appointment that day, so I won't be here that Friday, which is the week of August 11th. I'll get to Samus how what you just said reminded me of that, because yeah, it is a bit of a jump. So the week of August 11th, I won't be streaming on Friday. I will try to stream some point that week, possibly like a Thursday evening or on the weekend, but I will be sure to post that on all my socials. So if you want to keep up to date with that, please, by all means, follow and take a look there. Now, as for how I made that jump from what Samus had said, is I have a project that's just kicking off that I'm getting access to, where basically the client bought another company, is getting access to a code base, and they're finding out the code base is not the production grade that they thought it was. And that's probably something I'm going to have to look into when I get back. So, Samus says, that's what you said that reminded me of that announcement.
ぶっ殺してやる上等だ。
バトラ君、これ
Hey, it's not my money. I'm not the one who bought this company. They're just paying me to come up with a migration plan for how to get their code to production quality, as to like what standards are missing, what security pieces are missing, that kind of stuff. The table had been full of sweets, so even though they had been right in the open, we'd assume they were just sweets. I mean, come on. Find stuff like this a lot, right? You know, boxes of chocolate shaped like golden ingots.
こりゃお菓子の箱じゃねえぞ。
Okay, so Beatrice has done something else here, which is she has also stopped any argument that the gold doesn't exist, therefore this is, you know, a lie, a fool's errand, there's no way for us to win. She has proven by this gold bar the gold does exist.
本物だ。こりゃ本物の金塊だ。
And Battler's talking plural, even though this image is just of one. Battler's talking in the plural. So it's not just, oh, I had one gold bar made. There's multiple.
片翼のわしの紋章が刻印さ
And
れ
as
てる。
George is saying, it has their crest.
前に母さんが話してたのを聞いた。これはおじい様の黄金伝説の金塊だよ。
Gold ingots, 3 of them, weighing a full 10 kilograms each, were piled up in the very center of the table. Okay, so I know this is not going to be the exact price because we're in a very different day and age, but let's see what 30 kilograms of gold is worth. Oh. How much is 30 kilograms of gold worth? Google says in this day and age, 30 kilograms of gold would be worth roughly 3.2 million. I'm going to assume that's in USD. Yeah, 99.99%. It's a buttload of money. If a conservative guess from a quick Google is 3.2 million now, obviously gold prices change probably a lot in 50 years. But let's even say, for argument's sake, it was half that much before. It was half that much 50 years ago. We're still talking like 1.5 million USD. Or each bar is worth roughly $1 million USD today. It was where a cake would be placed if it was a birthday party. In other words, this was without a doubt the birthday cake of the party known as the family conference.
これが本当に純度49のインゴットだったなら6000万円くらいの価値
Okay,
はある。
George has done math for us. As always, I do stuff and then the game just tells me the answer. So 60 million yen. So back then, I think it's currently about divided by 80. I'm doing this into Canadian, not US. So that would still be 900,000, but in 19 whatever. That's real world. 1968. So Beardy, if you can figure out what 404 USD in 86 would be in 2025. Yeah, if you owe 404,000 on your taxes are just not found, and you don't have to pay money. It's a fact.
バカ野郎！安すぎる！俺たちの親が6人も殺されて、そこに積まれた黄金がたったの6000万円だと！
So just under 1.2 million USD. There you go. Which also means that if you had held on to that gold to today, since it's 3.2 million, the price of gold has almost tripled in what did we say? This was 86. So in 39 years, the price of gold has almost tripled. Just like Bitcoin, you should have held on to it.
さあ始まったね、ベアトリーチェ。どうせこの謎は誰にも解けないよ。だから絶対にベアとの勝ち。早く黄金鏡への扉を開いて、そしてマリアを連れてって。
It's like that funny meme of, I think it was a StarCraft tournament, where it was like first place is $500, second and third places were like 100 Bitcoin or something. Could you imagine like winning a tournament and getting however much it was, like $1,000 instead of 100 Bitcoins? And then just seeing what those 100 Bitcoins could have been worth 10 years later.
それにベアトリーチェ様、親方様の大切な賓客です。
You'll have to find that. I think it was a StarCraft tournament where some of the prizes were in Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure it was StarCraft. I probably have the numbers wrong, but it was something like the prize money today. If you had taken the cash instead of the Bitcoin, if you had done better, you would have like lost thousands of dollars. Maybe even tens of thousands. There it is. 5th to 8th place, 25 Bitcoins instead of $100 for 4th place. I'm actually surprised the first place was 500. I think Jessica's forgetting the fact that if this, whoever did this just killed 6 adults. Yeah, blockchain's older than people probably think of. Because I remember when I first started my job right now, which was about 10 years ago, blockchain was like really popular then, and people were, you know, using blockchain to make their own like joke cryptos. That's kind of when like Dogecoin and like those kinds of things were coming out, which means that Bitcoin was even older than that. So, and if Bitcoin was already popular enough 15 years ago to be used as prize money, there we go. First place, that cash 15 years ago to now, 700. If you were one of those 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th place people, one of those 4 people, you would have $118,000. Like literally $117,000 more. It's great. Jessica never stopped moving. Goda and Kanon chased after her, doing their best to convince her, but Jessica never lent them an ear. Eventually, the witch's VIP room came into view. The VIP room was always sealed and never used. No matter what kind of guest came, Kinzo wouldn't let them in this room. Yet the servants were always made to clean this room so that it could be used at any time. Yeah. I mean, if you think of all the people who, like, bought rigs and GPUs to mine Bitcoin, yeah, because, like, there's, you can rent's the wrong word, because rent implies that you receive money. You can, I guess, loan out your GPU and CPU to NASA to do, like, parts of complex mathematical equations. Just think, if all the people who had spent time mining Bitcoin or other, like, blockchain stuff had instead lent their GPUs to scientists to do complex calculations, how much more we could have done in terms of science at this point in time. Oh, I don't know if I read that one. Let me go back. So the servants started calling this room the witch's VIP room after their other shapeless master. I definitely did not read that. Jessica also knew this, and she couldn't stand that woman's arrogance in calling herself a witch by staying in that room. The Golden Witch was just a fairy tale. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those shoulda, woulda, couldas. Oh yeah, technology has definitely become a massive drain on the environment. Like for lots of, it's one, just in terms of manufacturing, like the mining for minerals, the production, like we're not effectively recycling electronics. Just the extra electricity needed to charge and utilize electronics is dependent on what your resources are, and I'm not sure what the country that has like the most green renewable resources are, but I can't imagine that any country no country to my knowledge is fully green energy, and I would be surprised if there was a large number of countries that were over 50% on renewable energy. And I'm not counting nuclear as a renewable energy or a green energy. I know some people might disagree with that. I'm talking specifically in terms of like solar, wind, or whatever you call the one where you have the wind turbines but underwater so the current spins them. I know there's a word for it, but I can't remember that. Like we're just destroying our environment. Hydroelectric? Possibly. That would make sense. Because like Niagara Falls has, yeah, that makes sense. Like Hoover Dam, Niagara Falls has a large amount of energy that it's created from that. Yeah, Europe for sure has a lot more in terms of wind and solar in their countryside for sure. And I think they do have like hydroelectric around like some of the coast of the Mediterranean and the Atlantic as well, kind of like underwater. Oh no. Yeah. I mean, the people with money and decisions have made it clear where their priorities lie. Unfortunately, that's just what the people who are in charge have decided. I mean, I don't want to bum anyone too hard. I do think everyone should be doing what they can, but at the same time, we need to be putting and supporting people who are making strong ethical choices. My dad always says you vote with your money. So if you were just looking for the cheapest thing, one, the thing you're buying is probably not great quality, but two, you're also probably supporting someone who is not making sound ethical choices. Yeah, Canada also has great water because Canada has the largest freshwater reserves of any country in the world. Because we have a large number of freshwater lakes. We have a large amount of glaciers, which are unfortunately melting, and like snow-capped mountains. It's at least 2 liters a day, which I believe is the like 8 cups of water. And you don't have to drink 8 cups per se, because if you're eating like fruits and veggies, like there's water naturally in that as well. You don't need to specifically go and drink 8 cups. But for like people like myself, like I've had a kidney stone. If you have issues like that, I'm supposed to be drinking, like 3 liters of water a day. It's a lot of water. My advice for people who struggle with that, 1, if you just think water is boring, if you just don't like water, get some like whatever flavor that's like, like low calorie, low sugar. There's water additives. Who cares? Like what people say about that. Or 2, if you have like vitamins and stuff that you intake like that, get them in a powder form, because then you have to mix it with water, and it forces you to drink the water to take your vitamins. That's what we do. Mrs. Popeye and I, we have 3 different vitamins we take daily that each comes in a glass of water. So there's 3 of our glasses of water right there. Because she hates just plain water. I love plain water. If you think water is boring, I know some people, my Mrs. Popeye doesn't like room temperature water. She needs it to be like iced and cold. I don't need that. To me, room temperature water is fine. I also have like sensitive teeth, so cold water can sometimes trigger that as well. So like I'm fine just drinking room temperature or like tap water. I guess that's the other thing is I know not everyone likes tap water. Depending where you are, you get like tap water can be good or bad. Like Yo said, they don't have potable water. Was it potable water? Is that what you said? Yeah, I don't have tap water. So obviously, if you don't have tap water, like you've got to buy filtered water from wherever you get your filtered water from. Yeah, like it's got fluoride and stuff in it. Yeah. Alright, back to Jessica's rampage. To Jessica, she was nothing more or less than a murderer who brutally killed her parents. Question her, make her give painful excuses, make her spit at the ground painfully, make her breathe painfully. No matter how hard she pretends to be a witch, I'll teach her that she's just a stinking, sweaty human. Jessica hit the door to the VIP room while yelling with all of her strength. Okay, I've had cucumber water once, Samus's. I've had it one time. It was at a hotel. It was the nastiest water I've ever had in my life. Well, I don't like cucumbers to begin with. But cucumber flavors is whatever. To me, it's the texture of the cucumber. Like same with I don't like pickles, even though I love things with vinegar. Okra, yeah. Okra, it's the slimy part of the okra to me. I don't like the slimy part. The watered down. Okay, so you need it strong. Yeah, anytime I've had okra, it's like the whole piece of the okra, and then it's like grilled on a barbecue or something. So the outside is crispy, but the inside is still slimy. It definitely wasn't a knock. That time was the beating of her anger's hammer, whose message was clear. If the woman didn't open the door, she'd break it down.
Beatrice! 出てこい! 聞こえてるんだろ? ここを開けろ!
There was no answer. Jessica twisted the doorknob without any reservation, but she felt the resistance of the lock. Jessica turned to the 2 servants and spat out at them demandingly.
ここマスターキーで開くんでしょ?
Yeah, if it's sliced open when it's cooked, I'm sure that removes most, if not all, of the slime. I've only had it where it's cooked as a whole, so the inside is more raw. It's like warmed, but it's not really cooked, if you know what I mean.
開けて。
お嬢様、それは大変な失礼にあたります。
That would be horribly rude to confront our murderer. Although Goto was flustered, he still tried to somehow calm Jessica's anger. After hanging his head silently for a while, Kanon pulled a master key from his jacket
カノン
pocket.
さん、いいんですか？
もしおられたなら無礼になるのは承知です。それにもしベアトリーチェ様が何の関係もないというなら
I was wondering that as well, Beatrice. Where is Shannon? We haven't seen her in a while. So, like, looking at this, I mean, these four were there. Rosa was there as well. The doctor was there. Kinzo is presumably still in his room. Genji, Shannon, and Kumasawa we have not seen in a long time.
そうだぜ、その通りだ。借りるぜ。
Jessica snatched the master key from Kanon's hand and violently shoved it into the keyhole. Immediately there was a light sound, and she felt it unlock. Without excusing herself, she flung open the door.
ベアトリーチェ、どこだ？出てこい。
Jessica rudely barged into the room. The witch wasn't anywhere to be seen.
逃げるぜ。どこ行きやがった？
お姿がありませんね。
Jessica, thinking that she might be hiding somewhere in the room, peeked behind the curtains and under the bed, but she couldn't find anyone. Remember, this is a parallel to Kinzo in the first arc. They opened the door, couldn't find him, and Battler argued, well, what if he hid himself under the bed or in the closet or somewhere? However, there were definitely signs that the bed had been used. Although it's an odd way to say it, the atmosphere in the room had grown a little softer. It wasn't the hard atmosphere of a place normally devoid of people like the chapel. You could definitely tell that someone had spent the night in this room, but she could not be seen. In reality, neither Jessica nor Goda had met Beatrice yet. They had only been told by those who had met her that she was the spitting image of the person in the portrait. They were doubtful about what her face really looked like. However, Kanon alone had met her. He understood what kind of being that witch was and what kind of character she had. So he knew that if they were to force their way in here searching for her, she wouldn't let things go as they planned. She must be watching us bitterly flail about in vain from somewhere, sneering at us. She's that kind of person. Because she was looking at things that way, Kanon was the first to find it. The other two were concentrated on finding the shape of a person so they hadn't noticed. Near the water jug on the side table, there was a single sheet of writing paper. It was accompanied by a short message and a fountain pen which had probably been used to write it. Kanon understood the witch. The witch would definitely ridicule them, as they had found the 6 corpses. Please don't eat the 6 people. Forced their way in here in rage, and were unable to find her. Ridicule has no meaning unless it is communicated. In other words, this was definitely that.
ここに何か書かれています。
書かれてるってなんだ？
Jessica quickly dashed over and violently stole the piece of paper. A show of hands. Who here is eating the stomach candy? When first of all, there's perfectly good table candy that is not inside someone's intestines. She probably wasn't trying to be violent. She just couldn't control her strength now. Also, remember, Jessica, when worked up, has asthma. I'm waiting for her asthma attack to happen. As soon as she read the message, Jessica went into a wild rage, crumpled the paper up and threw it. That's a heavy piece of paper. Oh, she then grabbed a table lamp that was by the side of the bed and violently swung it around, mercilessly hitting the walls and furniture with it. I hope you don't mean Kanon when you say furniture. When did we discover that? Sorry, when did we discover which piece? Please stop hitting Kanon. Jessica has asthma. Oh, that was earlier in this arc. I can't remember what. I think she was having a laughing fit with Shannon in her own room months before, when her and Shannon were talking about Shannon and George, and then Jessica and Kanon. I think it was something had happened. She had a laughing fit and it turned into asthma, and Shannon handed her inhaler. The light bulb shattered at once and scattered its shards across the room.
お嬢様、気をお沈めください。お怪我をなさいます。
離せよ。畜生、畜生。出てきやがれ、ベアトリーチェ。よくも父さんと母さんを。そんなに私が怖いかよ。殺してやる。殺してやる。ぶっ殺してやるから姿を現しやがれ。だから離せって言ってんだろ。くそー。
Oh yes, yeah, because like you said, that's not something that we being Battler have seen. Like this, right? What's happening right now is all something that Battler hasn't seen because he's not here, right? Battler understands where Jessica's going off to and maybe infer what she's going to do, but there's no way he knows everything that's happening right now unless it's told to him, or you're the Battler above playing the chess game. This was written on the paper.
私がぬくぬくとここであなたが飛び込んでくるのを待ちぼうけるとでも？知的な夜に粗暴なるあなたは似合わない。こんな間抜けに育てた親はどんな顔？見たよ。本当にそっくりな間抜け面。今はお菓子の国でお腹いっぱい。
It sounded like something that witch would write. It meant that she predicted that one of the children who had lost their parents would come running in here. She was hiding somewhere in the room. She would surely be rolling around with laughter. The witch was that kind of person. She sneered at people's misfortune, using it to stave off the boredom of 1,000 years.
これはお渡しください。お怪我をなさいますと申し上げております。
離せって言ってんだよ。くそー、くそー。
Go to grab the table lamp Jessica had been swinging around and took it from her. Because if she kept swinging it around, she might hit something and get injured. Yoda's eyes, Jessica probably looked mad with rage, burning with the flames of anger. But Kanon's eyes saw it differently. Those were probably tears of sadness, hidden by rage. Therefore, when at the moment the table lamp was taken from her, Jessica dropped to the floor almost as if groveling and started crying and scratching at the carpet. Yoda was surprised, but Kanon was not. Her way of crying was by brandishing her anger that had been stolen from her, so this was inevitable. Considering that she was the daughter of the Shurimiya main family, she was in a very shabby state. She scratched the carpet with her fingernails, and even her feet writhed and scratched at it. Jessica cried very, very hard, because if she didn't, her rage would start building up again and swallow her up. Over and over again, she remembered that letter's humiliating message. What kind of faces must your parents have made after raising you to be such a hapless fool?
私なんかとは違う。本当に頭が良かった。間抜けなんかじゃない。取り消せ。取り消せ。
Yeah, I saw them. They had perfectly stupid faces just like you. Now they are in Candyland with their bellies all full.
殺してやる。殺してやる。野郎の腹を裂いて同じ目に遭わせてやる。
I'm waiting for, after all this, for there to be another pause for the chess game for Beatrice to go, okay, battler, how did humans do all this? Because now, you don't just have the incident, you have Beatrice knowing about it in advance to write a letter, unless you think there's enough time for her to have, like, sneakily looked inside after the murders happened and thought, they're gonna think it's me, I'm gonna go back and write a letter antagonizing them and egging them on. That'll be great. Here it is. Jessica cried and screamed. She triggered an asthma attack. The servants watching over her ran up to her hurriedly and rubbed her back, but that only provoked Jessica's wrath. Thank you for Konami coding and skipping over Jessica saying that she's going to go kill Beatrice and slice her stomach open. Yes, but if we're going down the route that Beatrice is a witch, or like a witch can't have done this, therefore Beatrice cannot be the solution to the problems, right? I guess your two sides are Beatrice isn't a witch, so you have to argue that everything about her is human, or two, that Beatrice is not involved in any of this because it was done by humans and Beatrice is a witch. Those are the two sides I see that people can take to argue that humans did it. You have to argue that Beatrice can't have done it because she's a witch, or Beatrice is in fact a human. But now we have Beatrice premeditating this by writing this letter. You're taking side, Beatrice did it, and she's not a witch. Sorry, cross-sections of witch purity. I mean, I guess you could also argue that it's multiple people and Beatrice is just one of it. Yeah, exactly. It's possible that Beatrice is in on it in some way, shape, or form. That both, like, a witch and a human did it. That is on the table. A mountain lion with a sweet tooth. If the mountain lion had a sweet tooth, wouldn't it have eaten all the candy? And then if we're making the argument Beatrice is human, we have other questions of, you know, like, where is she living on this island? How is she avoiding surveillance? How did she and grandfather meet? And how did she impact him so much that he dedicated the last, whatever, 20 years of his life trying to bring her back, and yet she looks exactly the same? And where did the gold come from? So there's other questions there if you want to assume that Beatrice is in fact a human. Yeah, was she actually part of episode 1? Is this Beatrice here in episode 2? Like, is this the same Beatrice? Is it a different Beatrice? Is this Beatrice have the same magical powers? Is she a humanified version? So there's lots of questions. This is the question arc, so we're not expected to be able to answer. But like I said, from what I've read online, after we've read all 4, all the pieces are theoretically there for at least the major questions. Which, in my opinion, makes it a good, like, mystery detective. Again, if people haven't seen, first of all, if you like this kind of mystery stuff and you haven't heard of Payne's Creek Killings, don't look up Payne's Creek Killings. Just go buy it and play it. And after you've played it, there's a guy on YouTube, and I know I've talked about this before. I wish I still had his name. I wish I had it memorized. Who put together basically a question of, in a good murder mystery, when should people expect to uncover the secret? And basically, it's as close as possible to the actual reveal, or you have all the information but you just didn't quite make it. Yeah, I'll type it in chat. Yes, Beardy, you may send me the link. Yeah, so the plot behind Payne's Creek Killings is you are a crime reporter looking at a murder mystery that happened. Yes, Beardy found it. Thank you, Beardy. Vote for Holt is the person's name. But again, if you are interested in this kind of thing, don't look up this video until after you've played it. Payne's Creek Killings is on Steam. If you're lucky, maybe it's on sale. And yes, Beardy has put it in chat. Is it currently on sale? It is not. But essentially, the idea of Payne's Creek Killings. So you're a reporter who's trying to figure out what happened in this cold murder case. You get to a town. There is no direction at all. You are just told when you think you know who the murderer is and how they did it, you can leave and report back in your news article. That's the only direction you get in the entire game. So you are trying to go through, you're reading like journal entries, and you're trying to piece together, okay, I read this, where could I possibly go next? How is this related? What puzzles can this solve? And the game outright tells you it's a really good idea to just keep like a journal or a document or something like this. It's a wonderful concept. I have not found another game like it. Although I have one on my list that I think Beardy gifted me, so shame on him for that. That I haven't played yet. So I'll try that one out and report back. But yeah, if you are the kind of person that wants a murder mystery without hand-holding, you just want to be put in the world and try to figure things out for yourself, Payne's Creek Killings, highly recommend. And as best as you can, don't spoil yourself, like don't look stuff up. Everything is there, everything's given to you. I mean, if it's not fun for you anymore, yeah, by all means look it up. Like, I looked a few things up kind of near the end. I had been playing for a while and it was starting to get not as fun. So I'd look up, okay, where do I need to go to advance plot? But if it's still fun for you, try not to look things up. Anyways, back to Jessica's coughing fit. Jessica got up unsteadily as her asthma continued, and she went out into the hallway.
お嬢様、お薬を至急。南條先生をお呼びします。
郷田さん、僕に任せてくれませんか?
Kanon had noticed. Goda, who was much older, probably couldn't feel the tears in Jessica's heart. Kanon, who noticed that himself, had to support her.
カノンさん、いいのですか?
今のお嬢様には涙を流す時間も必要なご両親のあんな死に方を目の当たりにしては。
そうですね。
Goda also understood. He also knew of the modest relationship that Jessica and Kanon shared. He understood everything and left it to
わ
Kanon.
かりました。私はローザ様のところへ戻ります。五条様をくれぐれもよろしくお願いしますよ。
はい、お任せを。
Kanon's voice was frail, but he nodded forcefully. After looking in his eyes, Goda also nodded forcefully. Goda was a veteran with many years behind him. He had seen a great number of people in his life. So he knew the vigorous sparkle that could be found in the eyes of those who had self-control. He had seen that clearly in Kanon's eyes, therefore he would leave this to Kanon. Thinking about it, this may have been the first moment that Goda had trusted Kanon and relied on him for a job. It seemed Jessica was heading towards her room, leaning against the wall as she suffered from her asthma. Kanon followed her wordlessly. If she had asked for a hand, he would have jumped over and supported her. As long as Jessica didn't ask, he hid himself, watching over from a distance, where he could come to her rescue at any time. As Kanon remained in that spot where 10 billion people would hope for someone else to be, when their heart felt like they would explode from sadness, he silently watched Jessica's back. Then finally, she was crouching in front of the door to her own room. The asthma attack had stolen all of her strength. Her thoughts had gotten hazy from the lack of oxygen, so that she could no longer stand up. Sorry, Jessica, if we didn't have side conversations, maybe you would have had enough oxygen to make it inside your room. Right now, Jessica wasn't thinking that she wanted someone to lend a hand, because she still hadn't been able to overcome the flames of anger. Because even if someone had offered her a hand with good intentions right now, Jessica would start wanting to grab it and lacerate it. She understood how unreasonable that would be. Until she could overcome the flames of her anger, she definitely wouldn't ask for help. Probably Jessica no longer even had the willpower to call for help, but Kanon heard it. He definitely heard it. Kanon definitely heard the voiceless call for help which is shared by those from across the world who are grieving, in which, though they scream and scream, cannot be heard by anyone. Kanon softly knelt by Jessica's side and wordlessly offered her a shoulder. Even as Jessica kept coughing painfully, she accepted it, unlocked her room, and entered.
こちらへ。今、お薬をご用意します。
Jessica had often said when she let her asthma run its course, it hurt so badly that it felt like she would vomit her whole stomach. Her face was pale and her gaze wavered, and yet the coughing continued. Even so, her sadness was probably even stronger. Having her sit on the bed, Kanon took an inhaler from a cute basket on the side table by the bed and handed it to her. Jessica sometimes forgot to walk around with her medicine. But seeing that this was the case, Kanon would take notice and secretly carry around the inhaler from the first aid kit in the servant room, but he hadn't done so today. He scolded himself, as though wondering how, after failing to bring it with him on a day like this, he could call himself furniture. Then he remembered the day when he had spoken that word and somehow betrayed Jessica's feelings, which jarred Kanon's heart. It's not character building if you're furniture, it's furniture building, which just means you're IKEA. So Kanon's from IKEA, confirmed. There you go. But compared to Jessica's current sadness, he thought of that as a far more shameless emotion, which he suppressed to the depths of his heart.
Suspicious.
Beardy, stop gifting subs to furniture. Yeah, they're from IKEA now. When she inhaled her medicine, Jessica's wild breathing calmed down bit by bit. She was finally able to regain her composure. What's the equivalent of Kanon at home? Also, we have furniture at home, so it's not IKEA. It's that piece of furniture that your grandmother found by the side of the road on garbage day and brought into her house, and now you've inherited it. That's what it is. But the strength and willpower she had lost wouldn't allow her to rise up from the bed.
大丈夫ですか、お嬢様。
私は大丈夫だぜ。
My grandma was notorious for, like, if people left something on the bus, like a hat or scarf or something, she was notorious for taking that and then trying to, like, give it to, like, her grandkids. And we're like, we don't want your gross, like, bus hat. Like, who knows where that, like, bus hat has been?
父さんと母さんは
You could wash it.
私は
I don't know if I trust it anyways.
大丈夫だぜ。
Kanon regretted misspeaking. He'd said, "Are you all right?" to her. Was he really unable to notice the pain in her heart? This was why he was ultimately mere furniture. This was why he couldn't become human.
廊下におります。
Ah, yeah. Well, the problem with stuff on the bus and the trains now is there's like rampant lice and bed bugs. I don't think it's worth it. Trying to like clean that up. I don't want to give like my pet lice or anything like that, or for me to get lice by like picking it up even just to clean it. But I mean, if something can be like reused or repurposed, like yeah, by all means. We were just talking earlier about how we're not taking care of stuff environmentally, but on the same side, like one of the things I hate is people who waste food. Like, food waste is bad. Like people who just talk, and it doesn't have to be food, but like just like people who waste things. Like, we have so much like garbage and packaging and stuff like that. Like, yeah. So I do applaud companies that have policies in terms of like, oh, if you buy like shampoo from us and you bring the clean container back, then you can like refill it and stuff like that. That's helping reduce waste.
ご用がありましたらすぐにお呼びください。
Kanon understood that she still needed some time to cry alone. Told her to call him at any time, bowed and made to leave the room.
何か
Jessica had spoken as though she wanted him to stop, so Kanon had stopped. If she asks it, I'll do anything to help her. If it could heal the pain in her heart right now, I would even become a cane or a chair. He's devolving from a chair to a cane. Like, cane is below furniture. If by doing that I can repair the pain in her heart I gave her that day. What? We've got this great song. What is the current song? It's called Moon. For a while, Jessica stared into Kanon's eyes, as though despite stopping him, she had nothing to say. For a while, neither spoke. Jessica broke that silence with a small voice.
なんでもないぜ。しばらく一人になりたいって。
Girl, that's how you get murdered.
伝えてくれるかな。
一人にはしません。あなたを僕は一人にしない。だから廊下にいます。いつでも呼んでください。
For just an instant, it looked like some kind of hope flew to Jessica's eyes. It was very faint and disappeared like the first snow does on the surface of a river.
あとな。しばらくだけ。
Kanon just wants to give Shannon a chance by making a second potential pair that remains.
はい、失礼します。
Kanon bowed once again and closed the door. He thought he had said something to give her courage, but for some reason it felt like he had actually hurt her. Why? He didn't know. Surely that was because he was furniture. So even now he couldn't grasp human sadness. Beatrice hates pears. Is that what the sub said? Pears? The fruit rather than two things together. As Kanon repeatedly questioned himself, he walked down the corridor. He felt like the window at the end was coolly calling to him.
僕はやっぱり家具でしかないのか。
Okay, Beatrice also hates this. Beatrice hates showers. There you go. Yes, if you check the chapel, it confirmed Beatrice definitely hates parents and step-parents. It was still pouring outside, a dark gray world. Even on days like this, Shannon would surely look at the ocean and know it was blue. But to my eyes, even if it cleared up, I would only see gray. As long as I cannot tell the blueness of the ocean, I am nothing but furniture imitating a person.
本当に女心のわからぬやつよ。
Beatrice is going to leave a letter under Kinzo's door saying, I see I'm supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it that way. Oh yeah. Samus says, let's see what Beatrice is going to do. I don't think it's going to make any of us happy.
ああいう時は黙って
Anytime this
そばに
organ
いるの
comes in,
が
it's
正
never
解
good.
だ。だからゆえに貴様は家具なのよ。
Our stepladder's furniture.
貴様
There shouldn't have been a trace of anyone in this corridor. It had been empty and cold, but those scoffing words approached Kanon from behind. Stepladders are not furniture, and cashiers can't eat guillotines. Okay. When he turned around, he saw that witch. That witch who hadn't shown herself when Jessica was searching for her with a rage bordering on madness. Who had left that sneering letter to toy with
女
her.
の傷つけ方は3つある。特別にわらわが教えてやろう。一つ
So,
は
okay, so how many
刃物の
guillotines
傷
have
つ
you
け
eaten, Samus's, since you quit Walmart? Okay, there's 3 ways to hurt a woman. With a knife?
一つは心で傷つける。
In their heart?
そして最後が一番難しく、なのに意識せずして傷つけられる。わかるか？
わかるわけもないし知りたくもない。
期待を裏切
And
る。
betray hope.
だ。女ほど夢見がちな生き物はいない。勝手に夢を見、勝手に傷つく。お前のような距離の男が一番女を傷つける。わかるまいな。どれほどジェシカを傷つけてきたか全く考えが及んでいまい。家具だから。
お前のたわごとに付き合う気は毛頭ない。僕を嘲笑うためだけに姿を現したというのか。
うぬぼれるな家具。貴様ごとき嘲笑うにも足りぬわ。しかしそなたも一人ではそれに値しなくても二人揃えば十分に足りる。若々しき男女の悲運を笑う喜びは何度繰り返しても飽きぬのでな。
Yeah, she does seem to talk to Kanon quite a bit. And I almost wonder if just there, if Kanon had acted differently and not betrayed Jessica's hope, do you think Beatrice would have killed them as the couple just because she thought it to be funny?
なんだと。まさか貴様お嬢様を。
第二の番の生贄に寄り添う二人が必要
I
なので
mean,
な。
what do you think those eyes say?
お前たち二人は実に都合が良い。
待て、
Beardy, if you have already changed your Discord profile image to that sprite of Beatrice, I will laugh so hard.
僕はお嬢様とそういう関係じゃない。第二の番の生贄にはならない。
Thank you.
だからお前はジェシカを傷つける。だからお前は人間になれぬ。ならばよいだろう。貴様がジェシカを思い人と認めるならば、それを受け入れてもよい。だがジェシカは殺す。
なぜ？
このバカが決まっておろうが。殺したら
Is this worse, Sam? This is with the moving mouth. I think this is worse. This is far worse for me.
だがそれ以上殺してはならないという決まりはない。
Beatrice has confirmed some information here. We were counting 13 people need to die. She said here, there's no rule that says she doesn't have to kill more than 13. This current song is Organ Short number 600 million in C minor.
幾人でも殺す。だから殺す。わらわを思いっきり笑わせてみせろよ。カグ、カノン。
Oh. Yeah, the game has a lot. I've literally been listening to Uminkeo like OST playlists as I've been working. Because I was sending Beardy a message earlier today. I had a playlist on, and sometimes I look over, and they have the most unhinged, like, thumbnail pictures. So, I don't think this is a spoiler. I'm pretty sure it's not. I was listening to a song earlier, and I was like, okay, like, what's this? And I look over to see what the song was. And the picture on the screen while the song's playing is Beatrice leading a naked battler around on a metal chain dog leash. And I'm like, what the nuts is going on? When does this happen? Or is this someone's fan art? It is real. Okay. Looking at it, I just thought it's going to be... because obviously Battler doesn't win these first many arcs. I thought it was kind of going to be the end of one of those arcs where he's just like at his lowest point. And for reference, like I've watched the anime, which I know is not a good substitute for actually playing through it, and that there's lots of stuff that's left out. But I have seen a bit more than we've gotten to here. At that time, Ken definitely heard Jessica's scream. The instant he blinked and looked down the corridor, the witch who had been there, making a perfectly ordinary face, until a second ago it disappeared. Your version of an ordinary face is very questionable. Right now it's just him standing alone in the corridor, and the person he wanted to protect was asking for help and is right over there. It was obvious what he should do. It wasn't logical. It was an electric reaction. Without a trace of hesitation or idle thoughts. The person he wanted to protect was there and asking for help. So in that moment, he genuinely felt like he wanted to be the person who was there with her. I mean, at the end it was normal Beatrice face, but... When he flew into Jessica's room, his eyes latched onto a bizarre scene. The room was a fantastical world where a blizzard of golden powder danced, almost as though gold leaf had been scattered inside a snow globe. No, that's not it. I've seen this spectacle before. This isn't gold leaf. It's countless gold butterflies, Beatrice's minions. Jessica was surrounded by countless butterflies and was waving her hands around, trying frantically to bat them away.
お嬢様
Anyways, I was saying what Beatrice just said brings into question, were any of the murders in the last arc not fitting into the epitaph, and she killed them because she felt like it? Or were all the ones in the first arc directly according to the epitaph? Kanon rushed towards Jessica and violently brushed the group of butterflies away. The butterflies, beautiful yet filthy, surrounded Jessica's face, trying to crawl in through her mouth and nose. Jessica gagged violently, almost as though the butterflies were triggering her asthma attack, sneering at her. Indeed, when Kanon ran towards Jessica as she took, the butterflies stopped attacking her, and this time they began to elegantly dance a rondo around the two. Word choice is very important here, as the subtitle for this arc at the top of my window is Uminkeo no Nakokoro ni Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning. So the word rondo here probably has very important meaning. And if people are a fan of chanting, this is called Final Curtain Verse C. Capital on that C.
大丈夫僕の目の黒いうちはあなたに誰の指一本触れさせたりするものか出てこいベアトリーチェこれで満足か
He guarded Jessica, in pain and using her inhaler. Kanon yelled into the empty air. When he did, the empty air definitely laughed back, satisfied. Then she showed herself. She's changed outfits. If people are keeping track, she's changed outfits. When she showed herself, it wasn't a response to Kanon's demand. It was obviously because appearing and sneering humiliated them even more and was more fun.
これで全ては筋書き通りよ。今やそなたは訴状の恋よな。いや、二人が揃ったのだから、カモとネギと呼ぶべきか。
This appears to be some reference that's lost in translation. Duck and green onions are the primary ingredients for duck stew, and this gave rise to the Japanese phrase, a duck comes bearing green onions, in which a duck approaches carrying its own seasoning ready to be eaten. This metaphorically refers to a situation where a series of lucky coincidences benefit you without any effort, or alternatively, where a naive person brings you what you want while unaware of the disadvantage to themselves. Perhaps because of this, a mark or a sucker in terms of scams is often called a duck. Okay. Yeah, there was a translation piece that was lost there for us. They explained it pretty well.
お下がりくださいお嬢様僕が守る
姫に騎士が揃わば魔女が現れるのは必然よ。どれ金蔵の家具がどの程度の力を持つか見せてもらおうではないか。
She snapped her fingers and there was a piercing sound. She did. A blizzard of gold butterflies started up. They began to form a small mountain as they whirled around in a circle. It's like how a cold, wintry wind swirls and creates a mountain of leaves. From that mound of gold, a hand sprouted, and it appeared as though a resident of the world below was crawling out. They look pretty buff, and they look like they have a beard. and white gloves. Jessica couldn't comprehend what she was seeing right now, and her mouth kept flapping open and closed. It was a literal attempt to take in and digest knowledge, to understand the incomprehensible. That which was crawling up was probably an attendant serving the witch. Okay, new character just dropped. The witch has her own support staff. And yes, they be goats. Or at least goat face, because it doesn't look like... That looks like normal human hands, at least for the hands. Well, between the OG and now, he's been hitting the gym. It appeared to be wearing a uniform following the pattern of those who serve. But its face was different. It was strange looking. It was covered with pitch black hair, it breathed rotten breath, and its eyes were filled with the same strange subterranean glow as lava. And the symbol of those who are not human, a pair of horns. It was the figure of a goat-faced attendant who served the witch. Jessica could no longer decide what to say. All this happening in front of her couldn't be explained with this world's common sense, and she couldn't do anything except open and close her mouth. Jessica hadn't noticed that this island had already been cut off from the rules of this world. But even so, she could understand that this goat attendant was the witch's familiar, and it was after her life. It seemed that the witch had already ordered that, and she faced Kanon with an expectant gaze. She faced him with a provocative gaze filled with expectation, though asking him how he planned to protect this maiden. From Buff McGoat here. The attendant looked especially like a beast when it had been crawling up, but in its composure, you could see it had more than enough dignity to be worthy of serving the Golden Witch. Tell that it was overflowing with the joy of furniture wanting to meet its master's expectation.
金蔵の家具の力を今度は間違えるの？家具であることを忘れるな。この後に及んで人間のふりを続けるのなら死ぬのはお前だけでは済まぬぞ。
The goat attendant made a gesture that seemed to be a silent bow. Was that in response to its master? Or was it offered to the opposing Kanon? Then, on the attendant's hand, a blade of wicked malice appeared. Jessica had been unable to understand what was happening in front of her for a while now. All she understood was that this thing was gleaming for the purpose of threatening her own life. And right now, that was enough. Kanon spoke quietly to Jessica, who was hiding behind his back.
壁に下がっていてください。背中は決して壁から離さないように。
姫君はおとなしく騎士殿の背中に隠れているがいい。自らの命を男に守らせる醍醐味でも存分に味わえばよい。さあ、カノン、お前の刃を見せてみよ。美しい。金蔵は家具を生み出すことに関してだけはわらわの足元に及ぶやもしれぬ。
こんなものバラの手入れにも使えない。
カノン君、それは。
Welcome to the magical realism portion of the stream.
見せたくなかった。
よくぞ抜いたぞ。思いを寄せる女の前で己が人間以下の存在であることを晒した気分。どんなものよ。
黙れ。
憤怒で己を焦がしているくせに冷静を装うか。なるほど。真に熱き炎は 青く静かだという今のそなたがそうだというのか。
Yeah, and after this we're gonna all go play some Griff Ball.
僕の力でお前を殺すことなどできるわけもない。お前は月、石つぶてを投げたとて月を砕くことなどできるわけだが、お前は権限するために水面にその姿を映す。水面に石つぶてを投じれば一時月を乱すこともできるかもしれない。しかし月を砕くことなど至らない。だから僕はこの命尽きるまでお前の映る水面を叩き続けてやる。
気に入ったぞカノン。始めろカグども。
Got that big blade energy. Hope everyone's enjoying the magic fight cutscene.
ほう美しい奇跡だ。
The witch's words of admiration broke the silence, and for just an instant broke Jessica's paralysis.
私は夢を見てるの。
来い魔女のかぐめ、元来た地獄へ叩き落としてやる。
I love how they have no name, they're just the Goat Butler. This cutscene feels reminiscent of, what's that, Higurashi 6 on the top of the schoolhouse. A strand of red remained on Kanon's cheek. The witch saw this and grinned broadly.
勘が戻らぬことを言い訳につぶやいてもよいぞ。
カノン君、しっかり。
大丈夫、僕はまだ死なない。
I think he did. The trail drawn by the goat attendant's blade drew a large arc in empty space. Kanon wasn't there. He was behind it. Ah, okay. He like Naruto'd behind it. Okay.
主の帰りを待つがいい。行け。
He got his after image. If this battle of drawing sparkling trails was chess, then Kanon coming from behind was check. And press and press and press and press, and mate in 7. Had the goat attendant not even been given the right to go into death throes? As its knees buckled and it fell over, it crumpled softly into a bunch of golden butterflies. There was no sound of it hitting the ground. Even those who couldn't understand this battle could definitely at least realize that Kanon had been magnificent.
ハンドメイドには勝てぬか。そこまで見下げたものではないらしい。
次はお前だ、ベアトリーチェ。
Kanon's blade sliced diagonally through the witch's form like a hot knife through butter. In that instant, she burst into gold and scattered. She scattered into several thousand gold butterflies, and for just an instant the room was filled with the color of twilight. It was just as Kanon himself had said. Attempting to slice Beatrice was just the same as cutting the surface of the water where the moon was reflected. The witch's form was there, with an ordinary expression on her face, as though she'd been there the whole time behind Kanon.
十分に面白い見せ物であったぞ。それに免じ見逃してやろうかと思ったが、今の無礼で気が変わった。
嘘をつくな。お前にお嬢様を殺させはしない。たとえそれが無理でも僕より先に殺させはしない。
お前にはそれすらできぬわ。
She's already dead.
喋るな家具が。無口であれ家具が。身の程を知れ家具が。
カノン君は家具なんかじゃない。
ほう、なぜそう言えるのか。
理由なんかいらない。カノン君はカノン君だよ。うん、本当の名前は別にあるけれど、それでも名前は家具じゃない。カノン君にはカノン君の生き方がある。それはとても高潔なもので、自らが決めるもの。家具だから意見しちゃいけないとか、家具だから自分の人生を持っちゃいけないとか、そんなのないよ。お嬢様、あいつを挑発してはいけません。はっきり言っておくぜ。カノン君は家具じゃない、人間だよ。どうして？カノン君は自分の意志で私を助けに駆けつけてくれた。そして恐ろしい魔女であるあんたの前に立ちはだかってくれた。私を見捨てることなんていくらでもできただろうに、そうしなかった。自己犠牲は人間だけが持つ高潔な精神だ。だからカノン君は人間なんだ。だから訂正しろ。カノン君を家具だなんて呼ぶな。二度。お嬢様。
No, sorry, that was my stomach. Anyway, I'm gonna leave now. A very long thunderclap.
語るな人間が。とっとと終わらせよう。何しろまだまだ第二の番。互いの尊厳を認め合う寄り添いし二人を今こそ生贄に捧げよ。さあさあおいでなさい。罪を許しなさい。煉獄の七杭が一つ。色欲。
The witch summoned her own furniture with a mixture of laughter and anger on her face.
色欲のアスモデウス。
So, who had Lust Demon Girl on their bingo card for this game?
ここに。
茶番は飽きた。第二の番を速やかに遂行せ。
Important to note, Osmodius here does have the one-winged eagle on her skirt there on her left hip.
わらわに瞬きを三つも許すな。
仰せのままに。
また妙なのが出やがったぜ。
Took Kanon less than an instant to understand. That ghost face from a second ago was nothing more than a pawn to the witch. However, there was a marked difference in the value of this piece, of this furniture that had been newly summoned.
素敵な獲物に恵まれるなんて。怯えてる？かわいい。
来い、魔女の家具。お前には殺されない。
私の姿を追うこともできないノロマのくせに生きがって。行くわよ。ねえねえ、どこがいい？どこを貫いてほしい？お答えなさいよ、かわいい子。あなたの好きなところを思い切り貫いてあげる。
I'm very glad this is voice acting and I don't have to read this out loud.
さあさあ、お答えなさいよ、かわいい。
僕を可愛いと言うな。
行くわよ、ノルマ。さあ追ってごらん、その節穴で。
When I had to read all of Battler's stuff at the start, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Battler says some pretty unhinged stuff that I'm glad I don't have to say out loud anymore. Yeah, and I think you can be sad and have Samus's. And I think Beatrice kills Jessica first. Like, I'm sure killing Kanon first would cause Jessica a lot of emotional pain, but I think it's more entertaining for that Kanon, who is like just becoming not furniture to himself, sees Jessica die first and know that he couldn't protect her. Kanon's back and set on the target, but Jessica had predicted it. He predicted that the sneering witch's target would be the complete opposite of fair and honest, his back. But she had no way to block it. She had no aspirations to martyrdom. She simply thought that there was no other way than this to protect Kanon's back, so she could do nothing but block it with her own back. The furniture of the witch, which had changed its form into a demon stake, was stuck deep into Jessica's back. It was an obviously fatal wound that reached as far as her lungs. When she saw this, the witch let out a loud, evil laugh, because it hit where the witch had predicted. Everything was as the witch had predicted.
どうしたカノン。ジェシカお嬢様はお前より先には殺されなかったんじゃないのか。そうそう、それその顔よ。お前のその顔が見たかった。楽しんだ、実に十分。もうよい、死ね笑わせろ。さあさあおいでなさい。罪を許しなさい。煉獄の七杭が一つ。憤怒。
Okay, we're gonna get a second one. The first one was lust, now we got wrath.
憤怒のサタン。
Wrath is Satan.
ここに。その獲物はお前のものだ。
Same as before, they have the eagle. I always forget my camera is reversed.
今すぐ食らって。
Same
こやつの
location.
舞台に幕を下ろしてやれ。人ならば交番とも言おうが、家具のお前の場合は大道具係が舞台裏に運び出すといったところか。
So people who are on Team Human, how's it looking for you now?
そしてそれを二度と疑わない。
Because after all this, if you are our battler watching this, how in the world do you explain any of this as being done by humans?
あんたまた私に殺されちゃうの？あんたの胸温かくて本当に貫
Notice
くと
Satan
気持ち
says
がいい。
again, implying that I think Satan is the one who kills him last time when he sees the cloud of golden butterflies inside the boiler room.
また味合わせて。あなたの温かい胸の中で熱い熱い血潮で私。
There was no way to block it. The sound of a woodpecker filled the entire room, and before he could blink, it was already right in the center of his chest. When you take a piece in chest, it's impossible by the rules for your opponent's piece to defend. This was an obvious result, and one even specified by the rules. Kanon landed on his knees, and then he apologized. Not to the witch, and not to Milady. He apologized to Jessica. You really brought in all the video effects artists and makeup artists for this one, Beatrice.
切れなかった。
気にしないで。かっこよかった。
Kanon finally fell over. He landed next to Jessica, and the two lay there like Gemini.
カノン君はさ、もう家具じゃないよ。
はい。それに気づくのが遅い。
君の本当の名前聞きたい。
僕の本当名前は
His last moments, Kanon wanted to tell her his real name, but Jessica had already fallen into a sleep from which she would never awake. So Kanon's real name, which he protected until today, in the end, he couldn't tell it to Jessica.
人間な
Those were the last words Kanon left behind. Yo, I can see that you're definitely a fan of this kind of game. Have you ever played Raging Loop? It's also a wonderful, bloody detective visual novel.
笑わせるな家具が。100年を経ようと家具は家具よ。捨てる時に家具のために墓穴を掘るバカがどこにいる？家具は叩き割って薪にして、後には灰しか残らぬわ。そういうことよ。家具に刻める墓碑など
Oh,
ない。
yeah. Oh, I got it, and I basically blazed through it in the course of like 3 weeks.
死ねばこれ以上の屈辱を受けることがないと信じてるようだが、それは甘いぞ。死者を
Who are you
恥ずかし
talking
め
to
る
now,
というの
Beatrice? I
は
think
ど
everyone
う
in
い
this room
う
is dead.
わらわが教えてやろう。
I don't like where disgracing the dead is going. After taking a puff from her pipe, the witch breathed the smoke at Kanon's corpse. When she did, Kanon's corpse softly floated up into the air and disappeared as though it had been eaten by a mouth in empty space. The witch played dirty until the very end. The two who had understood one another in their last moments, she would not even permit their corpses to be close. If someone had been watching, they would probably mourn that this was indeed a disgrace to the dead. Yeah. I mean, yeah, visual novels are in general not fast. I will say, at least from Arc 1 and 2, there's a lot less just opening filler than Higurashi has, and I do like that part of it. However, Beatrice was far, far crueler. That would become immediately apparent. Wait, we went back in time.
So.
And I don't like that this chapter's called New Rule. I think Beatrice is cheating. But sadly that is where I'm gonna have to call it for tonight.